Hey, Mickey.
Hello. Sorry, just trying to eat the last of my goldfish.
Oh, I hope they weren't alive.
Good evening.
Oh, how's it going?
Bob?
Okay, well, looks like we have enough to start up. Should we wait or start right up?
I don't know. You can probably get started. I don't think we heard that Kathy wouldn't be joining us tonight.
Okay, well, she'll probably join in a few minutes. So, okay, let's see. Welcome to the December 4th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. This meeting is being held remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, you will need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our standard procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While the board members, or commissioners, and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted and with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raised hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you are joining but only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If an applicant wishes to display materials, please make the request of the chair and email the materials to board staff for sharing on screen. Additional notes can be found on page 2 of the agenda, which is located under the calendar on the easton.mass.us website. We'll start off with a roll call, and excuse me, I'm on a iPad here, so I have to check in with who's present today. Let's see, Robert Stetson.
Present.
Amos Kadam.
Present.
Joanne Ziegman.
Present.
Mickey Wolf.
Present.
Peter Deshane present. So the first item on our agenda tonight is a continued public hearing for a definitive subdivision special permit residential compound, Niagara Estates, 165 Pine Street, J.K. Holmgren Engineering, Inc. Stephanie, is this being continued tonight, or are we?
No, this is being heard, and I just promoted Scott
on,
Faria.
right.
He can, and I think we have Rick Casavant with us,
I think you're right, Stephanie.
and the Nigan. So I am promoting all of those folks.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Whoever would like to start off, please state your name and address for the record.
So this is Frederick Cassavan. I'm here on behalf of Warren Nigan.
So, hello, what's your address? Your relationship to the applicant?
I'm his attorney. We're located at 2 Battery March Park in Quincy, Mass.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Peter?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask if Mr. Casavant could start his video.
Yep, sorry about that.
He's here. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, my name's Frederick Cassavant. I'm with the firm of Marioni, Shaughnessy and Udy here on behalf of Mr. Warren Nigan. Also with me is Scott Farrier of J.K. Holgren. He's the engineer who designed the plans. And I believe Warren is also here, the applicant. This is, excuse me, the applicant seeking a special permit to create a residential compound at his property at 165 Pine Street. You know, this matter was continued, and we appreciate you guys granting the continuance. Prior to the last hearing, a deed was submitted to Ms. Danielson, which purported to have some restrictive language in there. Specifically, the deed indicated that the property couldn't be subdivided. It was a deed, I believe the deed submitted was from 1999, but the restriction language was actually put on in a deed in 1998, which was uploaded into your permitized system. The restriction in the deed was created by attorney John McCluskey on a deed June 4th, 1998, recorded at book 7668, page 148. We communicated with attorney McCluskey, who indicated he didn't think it was enforceable. He said it was created for his client, Miss Callahan, who was a former owner of the property, who has since been deceased. Clearly, she can't enforce it as she's passed on. And Mr. McCluskey, as the grantor, is not enforcing it. In fact, he executed a release of the restriction, and a copy was submitted to Ms. Danielson and uploaded in your system, which we intend to record the same, which in our opinion would resolve the restriction matter. And so to move on to unless there's any questions, I could move on to the application.
I mean, could you just, what is the restriction at issue? What's it actually say?
So I can read it for you, just so it's the exact language. Okay, so the restriction language, the within conveyance, which was the deed to the subject property. The within conveyance is made subject to the following restriction, which will run with the land. The subject premises shall never be further divided and or subdivided, and that said premises shall remain as a single house lot. And that was on a deed from John E. McCluskey, who's a well-known real estate attorney in Brockton, to his then client, Barbara Lynch.
What is is your client going to be financing any of the construction work here?
He is not.
Okay.
He's not.
So there's no, I guess there's no title review that's necessary to evaluate the significance of that language.
Correct. Right. He'll be financing this himself. There'll be no bank involved. So correct. No closing attorney running title.
I mean, I'm just the language as you mentioned it. I mean, why is that not? I mean, I hear you. Well, who's going to enforce it? But I mean, it sounds. I don't know. I mean, why? It's a deed restriction. It applies. It runs with the land, presumably. Couldn't anybody that's impacted by said violation of the restriction enforce it?
I don't think so. The statute, it's 184, section 27. For it to be enforceable, so someone to enforce it, they have to be a party to the instrument and stated for his or her benefit, or is entitled to such benefit as successor, or two, is an owner of the interest in the benefited land, which either and joins the subject parcel at time of enforcement, and is stated therein to be benefited. So the only parties to the restriction was Mr. McCluskey, and based on discussions with him, his client, Miss Lynch,
Mhm.
who he basically, she owned the property, deeded to him for $1. And again, these deeds are uploaded, Mr. Stetson. And then he deeded it, he put the restriction on and deeded it back to Mrs. Lynch. And then sometime thereafter, her estate sold the property.
What was the, I mean, if you know, I know you talked to the lawyer. What was the reason for putting this restriction on it in the first place?
You know, I can look right at his email. So when we spoke to Mr. McCluskey, sent us an email. I remember this, the client Barbara Lynch enjoyed the land, that she didn't want it to change. I did a deed for her and told her that if she died or moved away, the deed restriction may not be enforceable. So it sounds like for whatever reason, if she had some love for the land or something, he didn't get into it beyond saying that she just wanted that on. He went on to say the problem with this type of deed restriction is only good if the one seeking enforcement owns a continuous land. Barbara is long dead, and I own nothing in Easton, let alone next to the property. Several years back, I received a call from attorneys Stephen Needle and Randolph. He was representing a buyer of the home, presumably the previous owner to Mr. Nigan. And we both agreed the restriction is not enforceable. He closed without concern. He then suggested we put together a release for him to execute, which we did, and the intent would be to record that, after these hearings are closed.
All right. And so just to be clear, your interpretation of that statute that you read off wouldn't confer some sort of standing to, in a butter who could be impacted by the land or anything like that?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's just see that any documents or emails referenced are uploaded to the record, please.
Yes, of course.
Part of that open meeting law requirements. Yeah. Okay, but after that conversation, I think prior to that, you said that that restriction is, kind of being nullified by subsequent recordings that you're in the process of recording.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we uploaded a copy of the executed release. The intent would be to record that. We didn't have a chance to record yet, but I wanted to get a copy in advance of the meeting to your board. So it is in the permitized system.
Yep. Stephanie, did you have any more on that? Or would you like to kind of jump in there and let us know if you have any more information on this subject?
I had all the questions that Bob just asked.
Yep. Does anyone feel that we need to refer this to town council, or are we at this point satisfied with that aspect of this project?
I would just perhaps feel comfortable with a referral to town council, just to get a maybe more definitive reading on it, so that we just understand a little bit better. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and I apologize if I missed something, but there were a lot of maybes, and I'd just like to hear a more definitive reading of the statement as it applies.
So, Stephanie, do we have to ask for an official opinion from town council, or can you bring this up at your next meeting, or how does that work?
Well, so I can give town council a call. I would have done this, but he was in just before Thanksgiving. I was out that week, and most of the documentation really just kind of came in last.
Yeah, it makes sense to wait until.
So I would definitely like to run this by council and get his opinion.
Do that. Okay, so I think we could maybe move on to. We didn't look at the actual project that much before because of the and let's kind of start from the beginning here, and what would like to tell us about the project itself. Go ahead.
Sure. So again, the applicant seeking a special permit to create this residential compound at his property at 165 Pine Street. He purchased this back in 2021. Mr. Nagan is looking to develop this for essentially for his 2 adult children. Mr. Nagan's in bad health and sort of wants to set this up for his, his kids to live on this property. So it'll be a total of 3 homes. One's already existing, and then 2 new additional homes.
Which of the homes is existing? Just so we can see. Oh, yep, right there.
Yep.
The front driveway there.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there the adjacent lots in the front? Well, I guess like the 3 adjacent lots in the front. Are those all have homes on them?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So in this, can you maybe talk about the special permit? What the special permit is accomplishing here, besides the creation of 3 lots?
Sure. There's within the bylaw, section 235-42 has certain conditions that got to be satisfied to even consider the res compound, which includes the number of lots, frontage, upland, ingress, egress, and buffer zones. This is all detailed and laid out in my memorandum, and based on the plans and Mr. Farrier's drawings, they would meet those conditions. And Mr. Farrier can go over those in more detail. That's more his purview. And then to allow this, if the board wants to allow, there's additional criteria that 235-42 points to in 253-56B. As the submitted plans, again, will show in the memorandum detail that those criteria would be met. There is also a component, which is interesting for this in this bylaw, but there's an affordable housing requirement component. And I had some conversations with Ms. Danielson previously to filing. So instead of creating an affordable unit, so to speak, there is another option which the applicant would like to invoke, which is seeking a cash payment to the housing trust in lieu of creating that affordable unit. There's a section in the affordable housing guidelines with the town of Easton, and there's for a subdivision of this size to be a 2% contribution factor. And discussing with Ms. Danielson, the idea would be based on the cost of construction. You would multiply that by the factor of 2%, and that would be the cash contribution that would go into the housing trust. That payment will be made before any certificates of occupancy would issue. So that being said, I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Farrier. He can go over the sort of in detail the plan that's before you. Then we can answer any other questions you may have.
All right,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering, 1024 Pearl Street, Brockton, Mass. As Attorney Cassavant said, got a 3-lot residential compound at 165 Pine Street. Mr. Nyhan has his existing home right here that I'm kind of circling. He has a long driveway that leads to the home. It's about a 350-foot long driveway, so he's really tucked in the back of Pine Street. Our proposal is to create 3 lots, 2 of them which would be new, and basically build a roadway under your compound regulations, pretty much right over the existing driveway. It would lead up to the garage and then turn into a cul-de-sac, which is pretty much the preferred method from the fire department to get around these issues. We did kick around hammerheads, things like that might be a little less in size than the cul-de-sac. But with the placement of Mr. Nyhan's existing home, we really couldn't get a hammerhead to work and look right. So we went with a cul-de-sac. So we've got about a 450-foot long roadway that we're proposing. As I said, in conformance with the regulations, requires an 18-foot wide travel width. That 450-foot roadway will provide the access to the 2 new homes, as well as use Mr. Nyhan's existing driveway that'll access off of the new road, which we'll be calling Lily Way. As part of that roadway construction, we have a stormwater management system proposed that basically breaks the roadway into two sections. There's pretty much a crown in the property right at the middle of our roadway. The front half will go into an infiltration basin. The back half will go into the infiltration in the back. Those basins are designed to ensure that there's no increase in runoff for the 100-year storm event as required by your stormwater management. We also, as I said, it's an infiltration basin. We have sediment forebays, deep sump catch basins, rain barrels proposed for each of the individual homes. All of those measures get us up into the TSS removal rates and the requirements that we need to meet under the stormwater management guidelines. We have, as I said, we have both houses shown on the property. The exact layout and construction of the homes would come up further once we receive planning board approval. Then we would get into the septic design with the Board of Health and lay out exactly the size of the house. But that's roughly the size and locations of those proposed dwellings. We did submit everything to the planning department. It was sent out for a peer review by Beta. We've received that peer review and we're working on addressing their comments and would hope to get those comments back to Beta and hopefully have a clean bill of health from Beta at our next meeting, Mr. Chairman. So that's, we don't, going through Beta's letter, it's a lot of engineering calculations and clarifications, things like that. We don't see that anything, any plan changes that would significantly change the site are going to come about in us meeting Beta's requests.
Okay, thanks. So can you maybe zoom into the driveway portion of or the road / driveway portion of this, and just tell us about how wide it is and
Sure. So as I said, we're coming off of Pine Street. We've got adequate sight distance in either direction. The land slopes down from Pine Street. Pine Street's at elevation 110. It comes right about in this area here is the existing high point. So from there, it slopes towards Pine Street. Excuse me, I misspoke. So it's from the middle of our road, it's sloping towards Pine Street. And then from the middle of our road, sloping back to the end of the property. So that's where we have a break in our proposed grading. The front half of the road, about the front 250 feet, as I said previously, will go into this infiltration basin. The back 200 feet goes into this infiltration basin. In accordance with your regulations, we've got an 18-foot wide travel way, the cul-de-sac that provides the adequate fire turnaround. We have a water main proposed within the roadway layout. We have one hydrant proposed up in the back here at the cul-de-sac that we can talk to later. We had a waiver request to ask to waive the requirement of 2 hydrants and just construct the one. And the reason we had that, as I said, it's a 400-foot road. There's an existing hydrant right here in Pine Street. So the 2 hydrants themselves are within 500 feet of each other. Usually we look for hydrants to be spaced at 500 feet. So we were requesting that waiver as part of this submission, Mr. Chairman. But besides that, the road, as I said, it slopes back. Water gets trapped into catch basins, into a manhole, out into the sediment forebay, and ultimately into the infiltration system. And essentially the same thing at the front half of Lily Way. The roadway itself, the proposed roadway, is closely matching existing grade. There's a little bit of a fill just to get the slopes to work, but you can see right here where my cursor is, that's an existing elevation of 114, and the proposed elevation of 114 is just in front of it. So there's just a slight fill, but it's essentially maintaining all the existing drainage patterns that have been in place on the property.
Okay, let's stop there and see if there are any other questions or comments, including Stephanie.
Yeah, I will have a question, Mr. Chair. In lot 2, that house is pretty far from the hydrant. What is the distance? And is the fire department needs to voice some concerns about that?
Sure, thank you. As I said, our proposed hydrant is right here at the cul-de-sac. So the house would be about 300 feet, roughly 300 feet from that hydrant.
And that is acceptable and approved by the fire department?
To be honest with you, I don't believe we have comments from the fire department, but as I said, typically we look for hydrants to be spaced at 500 feet apart from each other. I know Ms. Danielson brought it up in her staff memo, just mentioning that fact. But we haven't heard that it is an issue, sir.
So if you take 500, the half is 250 and this is 300. So I would assume that we at least would like to have okay from the fire department.
We can,
because if not, that house might need to have sprinklers.
Understood. That's a fair comment. We'll certainly see if we can get a meeting. The fire department's always responsive when we have questions like this. So we'll certainly try to get that addressed. And if they agree that they would like it within 250 feet, we certainly have the flexibility to move that house closer to the cul-de-sac and still meet all the zoning setbacks. There's plenty of room for us to move it if need be. So we'll certainly make sure we have that addressed.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this point?
Yeah, I have another question. That basin for drainage near the road, on the south of the road, is really near the abutter property. Is that an issue? Is the abutter know about this? What will be the impact of that to his water table, etc.?
Yep.
That can be an issue, isn't it?
Well, it's designed to handle the 100-year storm event. And if it did overflow, it would overflow back onto the roadway and go out to Pine Street. As you can see, the contours all run down the lot, basically parallel to Pine Street. So that there's really no change in the drainage or the grading patterns of the property from existing to proposed. So we don't see it. It meets all the regulations. We're ensuring that we don't have any change in the rate of runoff to that abutting property. And in fact, there's no grading that would impact that lot. So we don't feel like it's going to be an issue at all.
Well, that's true for running water, but for infiltration, that can raise his water table. And if he has a basement, he might start having problems.
Well, again, the systems are all designed in accordance with stormwater management. It takes into account all of those issues. There's a groundwater separation that has to take place, so we're not putting our water right on top of the water table. Similar to a septic system, there needs to be groundwater separation, and that allows enough room for the water to infiltrate and not impact the groundwater table. So again, meeting all the regulations, it is designed properly and should not pose a problem on the abutters or the groundwater. It's a relatively small amount of water that's going over there. It's a small basin. It's a small amount of water that's going into the infiltration basin. When you get into much bigger systems than that, we have to do groundwater mounding calculations just to make sure that we're not going to create a higher groundwater. But in this case, we're so far below the threshold that it's just not a concern engineering wise.
You say that Beta is doing the peers review?
Correct.
Did they analyze this basin specifically?
They have. They've analyzed the entire site, including both infiltration systems, and would obviously comment on any concerns that they feel like it would have.
Okay.
Yep. And where is the home located on that the south side there?
Boy, I believe it's up front, Mr. Chairman, and it's a good point. I should have the house on the plan. I'll add the house to the plans as this revision included with the Beta revisions, but I believe it is closer to Pine Street. But
Yep.
I
If you don't mind, just like the house on the other side too, that one.
certainly will, those three houses right in the front, it should be on the plan. I'll make sure we add those.
Yeah, and
According to the Google map, it's actually not. It's more to the back.
Okay,
If there is like trees, I will assume that the current driveway is all on the woods.
right.
Yeah, and there are two houses. The one north is pretty far from that, but the one south is a small lot, and the house might be very, very close to that basin, or at least the garage. It looks like the garage of that house.
As I said, we'll make sure we add those locations, sir.
okay, and I think Amos might have just sort of answered my question, but is it wooded along the edges of the driveway road?
Yes.
Okay, maybe zoom in just a little more and show us kind of the frontage and the shape of the lots for these 3 lots.
Sure. So your zoning requirement under the compound bylaw requires an average area of 60,000 square feet and I believe it's a minimum of 40,000. So in our case, we have well over the 60,000. Lot 1, I'm going to actually change sheets just to a cleanup plan. Lot 1 is, a fairly regular rectangle, has 58,000 square feet in excess of the 150 feet of frontage. Lot 2, the 75 feet of frontage. Under a compound, it's required to have 75 feet of minimum frontage. Lot 2 has 76 feet of frontage, 77,000 square feet. Lot 3 has plenty of frontage going all the way down to Pine Street, but up around the house, it has about 175 feet of frontage directly in front of the house and a little over 77,000 square feet. So the area, the average area is well in excess of the 60,000 that you require. All 3 lots are well in excess of the 75-foot minimum requirement. All the homes meet the zoning setbacks as well.
And then does lot 1 continue all the way to the street around that property corner?
Lot 1 does it. It's pretty tight right there, Mr. Chair, about 5 feet apart, but it does have this long leg that goes all the way down to Pine Street.
Right, but you had to put in a cul-de-sac for the fire department. You couldn't really push it much closer. You didn't want to push it much closer to the existing house there.
Yeah, unfortunately, to meet the zoning setback, we don't have the option of moving the cul-de-sac closer to the existing house. Then we would create a zoning violation for 165. So we really have no choice but to have that little pinch point in the road 5 feet or so from that abutting property.
Yep. Yeah. Are there any other questions or comments about what we just looked at? No. So what about like say street lighting? Do you have anything proposed?
Let me go to that plan, Mr. Chair. In these, let me see if I can find a better plan for you. I believe in these cases, what we've done in the past and what we would be proposing here is just a lantern type of a street light at each of the driveways. Not so much of a street light that you would have on the public way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we'd be proposing at the intersection of the roadway and our proposed driveways.
Okay, and is the electricity underground or?
Yes. Okay. Yep, we've got the electricity shown right on the side of the road.
Is that underground?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I don't think I have any other questions right now. Does anyone else have any questions there or comments?
Well, there was this issue that they required to exempt them from sidewalks, and I think it kind of makes sense, being only 3 properties here, and
yeah, that's been sort of a similar.
Yeah, and there is no sidewalks in Pine Street either, so they are going to nowhere.
Correct.
Now, what about how does the I guess the compound aspect work? Do these other two lots have to be deeded to like family members? I mean, we can't really. I know it's kind of like it's hard to like define family member in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
No.
in this case, I don't think it has to be. I think the fact that it's going to the family members is just more of a point of information. But
Mhm.
where the bylaw is set up to with the affordable component, with all of these lot creations and
Yep.
the calculations that Attorney Cassavant mentioned. So I think that takes away any requirement,
Mhm.
that it be stay in the family or any kind of restriction like
Yeah.
that at all towards the future use of the properties.
Yeah, that might have been the original intent of when the bylaw was created, but at
Yep.
the same time, just for various reasons, attempting to define, family member gets just
Sure.
tricky itself, right? Yeah. Stephanie, do you have any other comments here before we?
No, I have a question, and the bylaw does not talk to requiring that the lots be created for family members.
Mhm.
I think in this instance, again, the property owner could have put a deed restriction on the property instead of contributing to the Affordable Housing Trust. But they chose to make the contribution
Yeah.
instead. And my question for Mr. Faria is, how extensive were the comments? I have not had a chance to review Beta's comments. And have you reached out to Beta to have a meeting to address any questions you might have on their comments so we can expedite that?
I haven't done that yet, Ms. Danielson, just because we've just started to go over them. Usually we do like to review it with them once we dive into it before we formally submit everything back to you folks. But to be honest with you, their comments were kind of the typical comments we get, the typical back and forth engineering calculation questions that they typically raise. So as I said, I don't think any of their comments will require any significant changes at all to the plan.
Yeah, and I know you coordinate that meeting with them through the environmental planner, but I'd also like to be made aware when you are meeting with them.
We will certainly include everyone in that.
And so Peter, I just want to acknowledge again that I will talk to town council about the deeds and the release of the restriction.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we have that. We're gonna, let's see.
I have another question.
Mhm.
Yeah, they also want to be relieved a waiver for looping the water, and I wonder, because of the distance and everything else, is maybe the water department should wait on this and say something about this waiver.
They usually do.
And I thought, yes, and I thought I had a comment to that effect because, in fact, I thought my comment was, I'm not sure why there's only one house. Their comment that it's because only one home is on the 250-foot road, which is inaccurate. I did have that. It proposes 3 houses. It's not clear why this warrants a waiver. And I agree, Peter and Amos, that they should connect with the fire department. We should get a agreement to that waiver from the fire department. So
Or the water
I'll follow up on
department.
that as well.
Yeah. Or the water department for the looping of the water main, right?
For the water main, yeah, for looping the water main.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm conflating. I was conflating the hydrant.
Oh, yeah.
With the
Yep. So we have the fire and water department.
To address.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the mark the location of the 3 homes along Pine Street. Kind of along the way of what we're looking at right now. You're gonna put the, please place the approximate location of the light posts on the plan. I'll just, show that you have dark sky compliant light posts at the end of each driveway.
Sure.
And this will be a private way in perpetuity.
Correct.
Yep, there'll be a stormwater management system maintenance plan and road maintenance plan associated and attached to the deeds. Kind of the usual stuff there. Anything else?
I see in Google Maps that there is a lot of trees on this property. Is the intention to level all those trees, or
Yeah, good one.
and there is no at least on the plan, there is no show what is going to be preserved, what is going to be taken down.
No, I think in all of these cases, the intention is always to save as many trees as possible. If we look at the house on lot 1, there is some fill around the house. So obviously wherever we have fill or construction, we would need to take the trees down there, but there will certainly be all of the trees that are left around that are currently around the perimeter of the property would remain. All of the trees at the rear here that I'm highlighting of Mr. Nyhan's existing home, all of those trees would remain. So the vast majority of the landscape buffer around the perimeter of the property is going to remain.
Yep.
There is a way to show.
There
There is a way to show that on the plan.
Sure.
I think you should, especially privacy with the abutters that are pretty close in certain circumstances here, that especially those on the side of Washington Street, actually. Yep. So it will be important for abutters to have that privacy if you can mark those areas in which you are going to preserve trees.
We certainly will.
That would be great. And, maybe it's possible that when we see the location of, that southern abutter, that might, maybe talk about like a fence or a stone wall along the detention basin. But actually with that, we haven't opened this up to any possible public comments. So Stephanie, are there any hands raised or?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, well, I guess the absence of that southern abutter shouldn't kind of let us forget about how close their house might be. So let's see where that is next time, and we'll try to drive by if we can and get a little better idea of this. And maybe we can do something along that side. That's so close.
Yep.
So it sounds like a lot, but it might be not be that much. If you can wrap up the peer review, would you like to maybe try to meet at the next meeting? You can keep it. You can keep it on the agenda, and we can always continue if we need to.
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to do that, Mr. Chair, if we could. We'll keep it there. We'll hope for the best.
Yeah, great. Okay. Is there anything else from anyone, or otherwise there'd be make a motion to continue to the next meeting, which I don't have the date in front of me.
We need a photometric plan. It says here on the report from Stephanie that is not provided. Do we need that?
A photometric plan.
I don't know. We always do photometric plans for subdivisions like this, do we?
Well, that was my question.
Oh.
I would. It's small and there's not a lot of light that's being projected. I mean, it's up to the board.
We've talked. I think it doesn't sound like it's going to be overly bright, right? And I think we've talked about a few at least similar subdivisions recently where there were just the light posts at the end of the driveways.
Exactly.
So I don't think so, but if anyone else thinks that we should have one, then I'm open to ideas.
No, I just ask. I don't think we need it for such a small development.
It'd be interesting though to look at all our subdivision regulations and see which ones require a photometric and which ones don't. This one might just be an outlier, or maybe it is a requirement for most. But if it is a requirement, maybe we could just waive that requirement.
Okay.
There's one other detail that maybe it will be good to have it on the plan. is the location of the mailboxes.
Oh, yes, thank you, Amas, for bringing that up. And I think it's important that the applicant understand that that is a requirement. I don't know that it's, again, they need to check with the post office if the number of houses is a driver for the congregate mailboxes, but I know what the post office is trying to eliminate is having to go into subdivisions and deliver mail to each individual house.
We'll just get our mail faster. Okay, that's interesting, but you're right. That has been been coming out recently, so
We'll add that to the list.
So, yeah, I guess it would be locations of mailboxes if they were going to be in front of the houses and if they were going to be at the end of the road. Is that how we should handle that? Yeah.
Well,
We'll check with the PO.
They really just need to show where the congregate mailboxes are going to be. And again, they should consult the post office website for that information.
Okay. And based on that, Mr. Chair, we'd like to request a continuance if we could.
Yes, would anyone care to make a motion to continue to the next meeting?
Motion to continue definitive subdivision special permit residential compound for 165 Pine Street to
Seconds.
December 18th.
Yes.
Second, Stetson.
Okay, let's see. All in favor, Kadam?
Aye.
Stetson?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
And Wolf?
Aye.
Okay, that passes.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, goodbye.
Good night.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Good night.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Okay, our next public hearing is being continued to December 18th. That being 260 Massapog Avenue special permit estate lot. So we could make a motion for that.
Motion to continue the hearing to December 18th, Stetson.
Second.
Zygmunt, second.
Okay, okay.
Should be
All in favor, Wolf?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
Kadam?
Aye.
Stetson?
Aye.
All right, Deshay and I. We have meeting minutes. Are there any changes or comments on the meeting minutes?
Yeah, I have a change on what I said about find it. Not exactly what I said.
Mhm.
Is on the Boundary Street. I can find it now. Yes. There is a paragraph in which it says Mr. Kadam said Gaslight Village is nearby and will benefit from this improvement. It's not Gaslight Village that benefit, but all this area that benefit from this improvement. And what I say about the pedestrian access to the plaza is that the current sidewalks end at Gaslight, and is a short, very short piece of a pedestrian way that will be needed in order to link this plaza with the rest of the neighborhood. So it's not exactly what it says there.
Okay, thank you. Suzanne,
Yep,
do you have that?
got it. We'll make the change.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other changes? Well, I don't hear any other changes being presented to us.
Motion to approve with the amendment.
Second, Stetson.
Okay, all in favor, Stetson,
Aye.
Ziegman,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Tatum.
Aye.
All right, DeShane, aye. That passes. Well, that is the end of our business, except for the other business. The chair report. Stephanie can do the planning director updates, which she just has a quick update on 464 Foundry Street.
Yeah, so about a month and a half ago, I was contacted by Joe Grimaldi, the proponent for the 22 unit multifamily project at 464 Foundry Street. And then I reached out to Peter and we had some conversations and actually met with Mr. Grimaldi and his business partner. He contacted us because with the increase in interest rates, construction costs, and then the time it would take to lease up the affordable units for the project, it was looking financially uneconomic for them. To out of the gates, after the project would be completed, to rent out all 6 of those units at one time without being able to start realizing the market rate income, they felt just wasn't doable. I suggested that perhaps they could phase in the affordable units. And when I say perhaps, at the time, it wasn't something we had explored with the Office of Housing and Livable Communities or with Town Council. And again, the board would have to make a decision. But we did some legwork and it is something that would be allowed. They'd still have to comply with all the local action unit requirements. For the affordable units, they would have to go through the marketing program if they were to phase it. So what a phased in approach would look like is it would be suggested that the board require 2 affordable units right out of the gate. And then after they had leased out 17 units, including those 2 affordable, that every time a market rate unit became vacant, that would be converted to an affordable unit and marketed as an affordable unit. So they have gone back and they said that would be financially economic for them. This would require a new permit from the board. There really isn't a mechanism for amending or revising a special permit. I mean, the board has discussed minor changes in the past or insignificant changes. I think, although they're at least at this moment not proposing a change in the structure, and the number of units in total. The other thing that they were looking at was changing the bedroom count to all 2-bedroom. So between that change and the change to phasing the affordability, I think that requires coming to the planning board as a new permit for your consideration. But I wanted to give everyone a heads up. Again, Peter and I have been talking with them and talking about it, but just wanted to put that on the board's radar.
Yep, yes, so let's not have a group conversation about it right now without a public hearing open. But if you have any comments or questions, you can email Stephanie. That way,
Yes.
we'll just kind of keep this moving along, and I'll stop there. That way, we're not having a discussion. So thank you. I wonder, as far as maybe are there any other zoning bylaw amendments for the spring? Probably have our hands full to a certain point with some other things coming up. But we could start thinking about, either cleaning some things up, or even maybe like looking at like just some of our rules and regulations, or like the plan requirements, and maybe we can modernize that a little bit, and also continue to explore, like an e-sign option solution for some of the documents that we as board members have to sign. I don't think every time around we have to like kind of like come up with a new zoning bylaw model, or make like big tweaks unless we really feel like we need to. So it might be a good time just to look at some of those other smaller things over the next months.
Peter, I had over the last couple of weeks, I've had some thoughts on zoning. One, and this just came up, it was kind of brought up on one of the planner listservs that I subscribe to, for electric battery storage systems, and that maybe the board wants to look at what the zoning might, if we want to consider specific zoning for it. A lot of those systems are actually placed in storage trailers, which basically the board, the zoning doesn't allow, but it might be something as that becomes a sought after use that the board might want to consider. It doesn't have to be for this year. And then the other thing that the board might want to take a look at is just with the changes that have been made in the past zoning, Queeset Commercial District and the Furnace Village District, is maybe doing kind of a review and analysis of how well the zoning is doing in encouraging the type of development that it was intended to promote.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that a little more, and see when we could put something like that on the agenda. Cool. Does anyone else have any suggestions? Or if you have any suggestions, we can bring them up at the next meeting.
I just have a quick question for Stephanie. Stephanie, do you have any idea how many battery storage systems have been implemented in Easton? Has it kind of?
Oh, I don't think any.
Any?
I don't think any. I mean, I've had some interest, but the interest that I've had, and this is why this would be something we need to talk about and figure out, is there really a big push? When I've had a couple of queries about locations, and what people are looking at for are large areas, which Easton just doesn't have to begin with. Like,
do you mean battery systems for like an existing, for like a hospital or like a medical facility, or do you mean battery systems for like located as some sort of backup for like an area?
You probably, aren't you talking about like storage for like wind and alternative forms of that?
Well, right, that would be what you're, and we don't have, but also for solar.
Is that, Stephanie, help me understand. Is this used batteries that are new but not in use for replacement? What kind of storage? What they are storing?
They would be storing power that would be generated by alternative energy sources.
Yeah, so like a battery farm, or like a mini battery farm.
Whether it's right.
And then they can store
solar, so that you're storing more energy.
But it's not storage. That is installation of the batteries that are being filled up by some kind of means, right? So that,
well, I think what happens, Amasa, I'm by no means am I an expert, but my understanding of it is, because like take wind as an example, because wind generates power at different times. It's not dependent on the need of the consumer. In order to realize all of the energy that's been produced, some of that energy's got to be stored. So they try to sock it away in the battery so that it can be used at a time when there's additional demand.
They can release it during peak hours.
Okay, let me understand. I understood from the way you put it that this is storage of batteries, but it's not storage of batteries. It's batteries for storage of power.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's batteries for
electric,
storage, not storage of batteries.
Well, the batteries are being, so it's an electric.
No, the batteries are installed on some kind of a project that is using wind or solar or whatever. So those are batteries that are not stored, are installed together so they can receive the power from
Right,
whatever
it's an
producing the
electric
So this is-
battery, it's a
Yeah.
storage system, so it's
Okay.
storing
So
the
it's
electricity in batteries for future use and evening out the fluctuation of alternative energy power supply.
a good way to think about it. It's kind of akin to servers for computers. So
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
a
yeah.
location with shipping containers that holds this energy
So it's called
and batteries.
it's called a battery storage power station, right? Yeah. So like it is like a server farm or a whatever farm, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and first of all, that location cannot be very far from the generation place, because the voltage drop will make this very inefficient.
Yeah.
So they usually are near the wind farm or near the photovoltaic installation. And they should be part of the review, whoever is reviewing this type of installation, that the way the batteries are stored on that installation is adequate. I don't know why this have anything to do with bylaws, unless we want to go to that degree of detail. I haven't read what we have for it, but that seems very technical to me.
It's a land use issue, isn't it? Like you permit for solar panels on a piece of land, you would permit to have these shipping container like blocks on a piece of land too.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote something a couple of years ago about what do we do for private property that wants to put solar panels that is more than what usually the people put on their roof, but they want to put a farm and have and produce power.
Yeah, and we were going to kind of take that up again. So maybe it's a combination of the two, because they, as you pointed out, go hand in hand.
Yeah, because
I wonder,
our bylaws cover, I think, 250 and up, and the houses are 20 or 25, and between these 25 and the big farm, we have nothing on our bylaws about. So if someone has enough land to put a solar farm and produce energy, we have nothing that regulates whatever that person is going to do.
And that's kind of a good point, because we don't even really have zoning for, say, although we've certainly reviewed it and there have been permits issued, like site plan approvals issued for canopy solar, collect the solar I'm not going to say photovoltaic units. So the bylaw, we kind of do it under the large scale ground mounted section of the bylaw.
Yep. Joanne, did you have a comment there?
yeah, I was just going to say, this is quite timely too. Mass Audubon just put a report out looking at solar, mostly at a larger scale, but I'll put the link in the chat. It might be interesting to look at their recommendations. And I wonder actually if they've considered storage farms as well too.
Cool, thanks. Okay, yeah, I think we have to kind of define, find the purpose of what we're going to accomplish, right? Instead of saying, let's put like this solar thing, that one, and this other one, like this kind of we'll kind of figure out our goals there, and then we'll kind of work backwards and see which ones are something that we can might want to look into first, or all at once, or what. But cool. Any other comments there on that? Anything else?
But again, Peter, we're talking maybe queuing up for next year and focusing on the MBTA zoning for this year, this town meeting.
Yeah, sure. Unless there's anything smaller that we can look at, we can kind of we can kind of keep a little informal discussion at the end of the meeting for a couple of meetings and see if anything comes up that we want to tackle. What do you think? I don't want to. We don't really know what the result of the state review will be, right? And so we don't want to put ourselves kind of like back ourselves against the wall and have other zoning that we were kind of getting to work on. Then we just have to put it on the shelf because we end up having to do more work, in the spring than we expected, or the winter/spring.
Yeah, but there are people that already, if you at the end of Prospect Street, there is someone that has a ground-mounted photovoltaic farm.
Yep.
So
Okay,
I
well,
don't
yeah,
know
let's think about it.
I don't know where his batteries are.
We just threw some
No,
ideas out there.
they
Let's-
just direct it right to the grid, and the grid is taking it and distributing it.
Don't be so sure. I haven't seen the installation.
Well, they probably do have some batteries.
Yeah, maybe they have some big TVs. Who knows, right? Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, we can think about it a little bit, and maybe.
Well, all I'm saying
Think
is
about
that
what we
I
can
don't know if
accomplish.
the building inspector is reviewing those installations or not, and what tools he has in order to figure
We
out.
have a
if
building
it's right
inspector,
or
we have an
not.
electrical inspector, and we have a building code. I'm sure they do. What
Maybe we invite them to the discussion, Amos.
Yeah, I mean, if you do electric work, you're supposed to get an electric permit, right? So that's how that works. Yeah, but that'd be more a question for the actual inspectors.
Well, whatever we do, it should make it easier and not exactly incentivize, but not do the opposite about people that wants to use solar power. We shouldn't put obstacles.
Well, we can't put too many obstacles. I mean, that's a Dover Amendment issue too.
Right.
So there's only so much. I mean,
Right, exactly.
I feel like when we looked at it, we realized that we don't have that many obstacles. That sometimes zoning is, solar is allowed by the building code, and it's not something that we have to allow like on residential land in the first place, right?
Well, maybe yes, in certain conditions. If someone has enough room and it doesn't bother anyone and everything is okay, we should allow it.
Could have something just so keep it make sure it works well with the neighbors in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
If I may suggest something else too, Stephanie, is there like anything in the master plan that hasn't been implemented, or has this board done like a review of that? I know that's part of the process of a new master plan, which you guys are hopefully working towards the town, but any leftovers?
That's an excellent question. We did submit for one of the state's planning grants for $60,000 to do an update to the master plan. And the first step would be to reviewing that. So that was something I was going to bring up with the board and talk with Peter about getting on an agenda. But the first step would be to take a look at the action plan, figure out what we've done over the last 10 years and what hasn't been done, what needs to be updated, what not.
So, motion to adjourn.
second, Stetson.
All in favor? Wolf,
Aye.
Ziegman,
Aye.
Stetson,
Aye.
Tatum.
Aye.
Okay, DeShane, aye. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Aye.
Right.
Night and good luck.